Hey, everybody. Welcome back to A Time for Art. We're happy to have you here. My name is Hershey Petty. I'll be your host today. It's Wednesday Paint Day. So we're all very, very excited. For today's live stream, we have, or before we get into today's live stream, I wanted to go, let's say hi to Allison. Allison.
Hello, Hershey. Hershey,
Hi.
I like your sheet. We have high expectations for the background for Hershey, but we're getting there. And so I just want to appreciate today's effort.
We have really been trying some new things with a green screen, and
not quite.
Green could be white or gray or all sorts of different colors, but so very we'll get there. We'll get there. One day I'll have a background like you see on Allison's. So but for today, it's a lovely sheet. Before we get in, I wasn't here on Monday. And you guys did the trees, and the tree, as we discussed before, and I think with your mom as well, like the tree makes me want to draw also. So
fantastic.
I'll share with you guys what I did. Can you see that there?
Oh, Hershey, that's beautiful. This is the first time I'm seeing it.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. I didn't want you to see it before.
Mm-hmm. And you got the sun.
Yeah, and so I played around with some, let's see, what am I doing there? I played around with some texture with the sun.
Excellent.
Up there. And then, I really was going for that here in Arizona when the mountains turn pink. My friends here, they're all like, oh, when the mountains are pink, it's time to drink. And so I wanted to play with like that part of the afternoon where everything gets that really cool pink color. So that's what I did there. So I followed your instructions. I watched everything, and it was and this is what I came up with. So if any of you guys at home have trees or anything that you want to share that you guys did on Monday in your art journals or in your sketchbooks or on Canvas, please upload that to A Time for Art subscriptions on Facebook. Allison, today we are going to be continuing with the transition theme, and we're going to do mythology. So tell us a little bit about mythology, what your inspiration was, and what we're going to be painting today.
Absolutely. So I worked in my journal as well, and this is not something that there's a transfer for, but sometimes you just you get an idea, and we're going to do Demeter. We looked it up. It's Demeter, not Demeter. I was saying it wrong. And she is the goddess of agriculture and the harvest. And so when we're cycling in through transition from November to December, today's December 1st, seemed like the harvest transitioning to snowflakes seemed like a good place to start. So we'll go in and out of mythology a lot. It's just a really great visual and textual and literary medium to work with. And this is what I did. And I worked on top of our very first live stream. We were demonstrating the snowflake transfer. And those are the pages I started with when I composed this. And actually it's going to be up on our Facebook page. There is a time lapse on this. Start to finish, I did the whole thing on time lapse, so you can see kind of how I came together with it and worked on it. So that's this one, but we're going to paint this today, and we're going to paint it on canvas, and I'm going to teach you how to draw it. We're going to do some drawing practice as well as painting practice, and start to finish. We're gonna do this today because we paint on Wednesdays. So
awesome.
I'm just going to kind of get organized. I have a little baby one because
let's see. There you go.
Tough to see. We're going to get better at this. We're going to figure out a way to float an inspiration image or a reference image, but we don't know how to do that yet. So this is the very literal way to do that. And
I like that. So that's going to stay up on the top left so that while we're painting today, got you. Perfect.
We'll pull this back out too, but we'll go from there. And then we're going to start with our blank canvas panel.
Real quick, Allison, I just want to say, I think that's really cool that you repurpose some of the pages that you've already used in your journal. That's awesome.
Excellent. Yeah. So we'll keep this guy out on the right page if we need it. And the way I started was I just got our white out. And I used a little bit of red. That's our rose madder. And I just started kind of painting. So just like we do in our journals, if you want to work on a painted surface or use up some old paint or just do some free association painting, get out of your head a little bit.
Yeah.
So I just started working kind of like this. And I used more red kind of in the first third going left to right.
What was the name of that red again? Can you tell us?
Both Matter is the one we're working with.
Gotcha.
That's in this group of colors we've been working with this whole sort of season. And you want to make sure you get all the little holes. That's kind of the point, which can be tough with white. So I kind of tipped it up to see what's still dry and what's not.
And can they use as much of that red or the white?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you don't have to use red and white. You can use anything. This is just what I did. So this is really, really wet. This is what I let dry to get started.
Allison, we have
Oh my
Jill
God,
who's
kidding.
interacting with us right now.
Oh, fantastic. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Jill. Good to see you, or good to chat with you. She wanted to know, is there no water in this first pass?
I did not use water, but I actually think water at this point would be a good thing to kind of cover up all the little holes.
What do you mean? How do you mean water for what?
So-
Water.
So I've got paint on here, and then I don't know if you can see it, like there's a dry patch right here.
Uh-huh.
And I want to make sure that's covered. So I went no water the first round.
On the brush, you mean?
On the brush, but then with the existing paint, just to move it around to get some of the dry areas,
Yeah.
I went ahead and used just some water on my brush.
Okay.
And I'm using my biggest brush that came in the kits this month. And that looks pretty good for my start.
Yeah.
Now, the one I've got ready for you now looks a little different because why would we want to make two things look the same? So this is the one I've got dry, ready for the next step. And we're going to put this right here. We're going to draw Demeter.
Ooh. So drawing a face has always been something that like terrifies me.
Okay.
When I draw a face, there's any number of things that can go wrong, from things that aren't near each other or they're wrong sizes. You got tips for all that?
I do. So I actually think drawing a face is not only one of the most rewarding things you can do, but also there's so much structure to the face, the basic axis of the face. And this is a profile, so one of the easier ones, but we're gonna break all that down, and we'll do it over and over and over again. So when you subscribe to Time for Art, stick with me, you'll be very good at portraiture. Yeah. So on this particular instance, I want to keep, so the other nice thing about the way we work, which is in our journals before we get to our paintings, your journal is roughly the same size as your canvas panel. So if you work in the whole spread, it'll roughly be the same size. So I want to kind of keep that the case here. And I only want this to kind of be in the first quadrant or third of my picture plate. So I'm going to kind of mark this off just like this. I'm going to keep the face roughly in this space. So my drawing of the face is going to be right here. And I'm just going to make some measurement marks, and it's all visual measurement, and you will get better and better at this as you go. But the top of the head kind of starts right here.
Okay.
You can see that. And then the neck, where the sort of the chin meets the neck, comes up to right about there. So the face, the egg shape of the face, how I was taught, sits right about, it's going to begin and end right about here. And then the chin certainly drops down, and that comes almost right before kind of the first quadrant or third end. So I'm going to give myself a little mark, probably right about here to where the chin ends. And then this slope right here, I'm just going to I'm going to start this sort of half of the egg shape of the face. So I'm going to kind of draw a slope this way, come down, come back around like this. And my face is going to fit in there. Now, part of drawing, and especially portraits, and I can already tell I want to bring this down even more. It's more like that, is not being afraid of making a mark and then not being afraid of erasing that mark. You make a mark, you do some measurements, you check it from there. So something on a face that actually changes quite a bit in different people is how the forehead aligns with the nose, aligns with the lips. This can be very different. You can have some people whose lips start way over here, where your forehead comes out further. It's just how this shakes out is just very different in people. And so you want to make, when you're trying to get a likeness, you want to be very cognizant of how this shakes out, right? So in this instance, I know that roughly speaking, the sort of eye line is going to hit probably right around here. And the eye sits right beneath where the nose meets the forehead. Yeah.
So here's what I have so far. This is
okay.
For you here. Do you see my?
Looks fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the nose going to go further out from that? Is the nose encompassed in that shape?
It might break the sort of curve line. It might not. And we're going to figure that out before the end of it. But roughly speaking, we've got the lay of the land. We've got the shape of the face. We know probably where the eye is going to roughly start. And then we're going to drop in the nose and make some measurements from there. Okay. So I know where I kind of want this part of the eye, the corner of the eye to start, right? And then right up from there, measuring. So front of the eye is probably here. I'm going to drop in where I want to start the nose, which is where the nose meets the forehead. So I'm going to actually first draw in this forehead shape.
So right above the eye is where the nose starts.
Right there in this instance. And then the nose is probably going to end right about here, or the nostril, or the side of the nose is going to end right about here. And that is, if you look, that starts after the eye, right? So if the front of the eye is going to be here, this sort of side nose is going to be right there. So I'm going to go ahead and draw on the nose.
Okay.
And draw on the eye. So here we go, nose. Here's a nostril that tips up a little bit. Here is going to be the tip of the nose. And connect the dots, we have a nose.
There you go.
I'm going to go ahead and draw in the eye that I said starts roughly around here. Here's one line right there. Here's one line, kind of comes up this way, over this way. I always immediately draw in the lash line because the shape on the face.
Allison, we've got Jill again. Thank you for your great question. She wants to know that when you did the original that we're looking at on the left there,
yes,
freehand like this as well, or did you have
it is. I freehanded it.
Very good.
True story.
And we're gonna, Jill, at the end of this, I think we're gonna be able to freehand profiles of faces as well.
Absolutely.
No.
So I just dropped in a circle for where the iris and the pupil are going to go. We're going to work with this in a little bit. And then I'm going to drop in sort of this line right here between the nose and the mouth. And that starts in this drawing by the nostril right here, this edge of the nostril. It's kind of a concave line. And we know we want this to be past the eye. So this sits here on my drawing. It's in about the right spot. I want the lips to kind of begin right before the nostril ends. So actually that's too far.
You know what? I actually made that mistake that you just said where I started to draw the face coming out a little bit further, not keeping in mind the eye, you know, this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And that's why we have erasers on our pencils.
Yep.
So I've got a line right here where my lips are going to begin and end. And I'm going to go ahead and draw this in. And a trick with the lips, which I actually find to be the toughest part of the face, I find the nose to be the easiest part of the face, is you have to draw two lips, not one. So this comes past here, around here, and this line is at an angle. So we're going to come down with that. And then we're going to start here, come back around like this. And this is a separate lip that doesn't run into this one. It has its own corner.
Okay.
That comes around just like this. And in this instance, the top lip is past the bottom lip. So I'm going to move this lip, this bottom lip, in a little bit. And then I'm going to put in this kind of underneath lip. It's going to come back out. And if you look at this, the edge of the chin and where the lips start, or where your like skin starts at the top of the lip right here, kind of lines up. So I'm going to line it up with this mark, and this is where I want the chin to end up. I know I want the chin to kind of come around like this and come up like this. Got the neck kind of loosely placed right here. And we're off to a good start. So let's do some measuring. I've got the edge of the nose that kind of hits the front of the iris. Edge of the nose. Whoa, we're way off. See?
Yeah, you know what? I just had to do a lot of erasing myself.
All right, so I'm gonna move this in a little bit like this. And I'm gonna move the eye back.
Allison, can you put your pencil down one more time and show us how you knew you were off?
Okay, so if you look right here, the edge of the nose runs into the tip of the eye, right? Just like this.
Yes.
Look at what mine does.
Yep. Okay.
So I brought my nose in a little bit. In this instance, I find the correction to be they both need to move. So I brought the edge of the nose in a little bit, and I'm going to bring the eye back a little bit. That's good like that. I'm looking at these two shapes. There is more of a slope or curved slope to this nose than this nose. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go ahead and change that. Come around this way. I'm going to put in the nostril better. I'm going to set that like that. This is too angular compared to this one. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to kind of keep this over here. And I'm going to slope this down like this. Redraw this lash line like this. I'm going to go ahead and put in the eyebrow. Starts kind of right here on the eye. So that's out too far.
I love all this correcting. Don't have to get it right the first time.
I never have.
Yeah.
Not even one time. Just like this. Oh, use a little more. The shape of my forehead, I'm gonna bring in a little bit like this and back out a little bit like this. Gonna put in the hairline now. So the hairline and where the wreath will go, it's kind of up in here. Hair kind of comes up around this way. There's some kind of flyaways going on here. Fun fact about eyebrows, and I should know this because I have a lot of eyebrow, is they come, your hair grows this way until it switches around this way and it comes in like this. That looks a lot like my eyebrows, a little light actually. All right.
Let's go back.
Sure.
The eyebrows, the tip of the eyebrows. So that's a big space there between her eyes and her eyebrows, right?
Mine's too much. This is too wide.
Okay, got
Right here. You're right. Good catch. So we're gonna take this and I'm just gonna scalp the top of it. And I'm gonna come back underneath and drop it closer like that. And this is a really good example of if you're stuck, always have someone else look at your work because they're looking at it with a fresh eye. I'm gonna drop a pupil in right here. Another really good tip is the cheekbone. It's on everyone's got one. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw in a cheekbone right here. It kind of starts up around here. You can always sort of look at this shape. So this shape comes around like this kind of leaf shape. It's the case here. It's the case here. So this is a good cheekbone. This is a shadow shape that comes up like this. I'm gonna throw that in. This bottom lip is a little light. I'm gonna bring this down. The chin's a little too pointy for my taste on this. So mine stopped. This has more of a gradual slope like this, and it comes around kind of like this.
And everything is just going to be, this is all just freehand us, like we're
we're just learning, we're just doing some drawing practice today.
Cool.
I'm gonna change the slope of that a little bit. Come around here. I'm gonna start drawing in the hair. It's this kind of spiral shape. And hair is never the same any minute of the day. So certainly don't overstress. And big picture, I have it going all the way into the picture plane this way. So I'm gonna throw in some fun hair.
Oh yeah, can you show us, is that little guy at the, let me see, is he the little guy that you printed out to show us what the like? Let's look.
Here we go. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
So you can see it. Stick that right there for the time being.
Great. Okay.
And then what I'm going to change actually from this drawing from the journal to the painting, I actually wanted to do one piece of wheat that kind of hits in this space right here. And I wanted to do another that sort of came off the page and looked like it was in the wind with the other ones. And here's the fun trick with the wheat. It's kind of this seed shape that kind of makes a heart all the way up, but it's irregular. And they get smaller and smaller as they go. And then these fun little sort of sprouts come out. And that's the wheat trick. And I've got one coming this way. Start it right in here. Here's my little seed shape. It comes out like this. And I've got these sprouts coming through like that. And I'm gonna go back and kind of, so I've got the basic layout here. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna check my work. And I think the eyebrow still needs some work. The hairline needs a little bit of work. But for the most part, we got a good, so this eyebrow is considerably larger than this one. And I'm gonna go ahead and fix that. So it's one of my tricks, making the pencil fly. Kind of comes up like this. Starts here. Comes around like this.
Did you draw Demeter from like your own mind's creation, or was there a picture of her that you used for inspiration?
I used a stock photo for inspiration on Unsplash, which is all the free fun stock photos. And it doesn't look a whole lot like the person I started with, but which was kind of the goal. I didn't want it to be too literal. And I wanted her to look very much the color choices. I wanted her to look very much of the earth. So very earthy color.
I'm noticing of mine is that I know it's just a sketchy drawing right now, but my drawing, I don't know if you can see it. She looks very terrified.
Okay, don't worry about that.
Okay, good.
Don't worry about that. Also, you know, there's some very subtle facial things that can change everything. And one is if you slope the eyebrow down just a little bit, eyebrows are very telling.
Yeah.
And in this instance, I'm going to go ahead and throw in the leaves for this crown. And I'm not necessarily making it look exactly like I did.
So what happens when you lower the curve of the eyebrow?
It just changes her expression. Eyebrows are very telling.
Yeah.
All right, so I threw in some leaves for the eyebrows. I'm gonna check my chin here. So this chin goes just beyond the forehead. So there's like maybe a couple millimeters in between my pencil and the forehead. And this is way too far out. If you look, I can stick my pinky. So the chin needs to come back on this drawing. Just like that. And that's how I'm gonna leave her for now. The other thing I wanna do is that we're gonna get out our transfers, our vellum, and I'm gonna put some snowflakes in the background, and I'm gonna use this one. And this one.
Which ones are you choosing?
I'm choosing this snowflake.
Okay.
Right here.
Yeah.
And this one. And this one. And we make this clear or translucent so that you can see where you're putting them. So I'm done with this for the time being. Oh, I kind of like them on her face though. How pretty would that be?
Oh yeah.
Snowflakes on her face. Maybe we'll do that later. So I'm gonna drop this guy like right around here. And I'm gonna drop this guy right here. And this guy right here. Anchor this down. We've shown this before. And then I've cut this up a little bit so you're not, when you're doing little stuff like this, kind of maneuvering the big piece of transfer paper. And when you subscribe, you'll have a lot of sheets of transfer paper over time. I'm just going to go ahead and transfer my snowflakes. I made sure it was the sticky side down. So the graphite
The
Make it
shiny
up
side,
there.
right?
There we go. See, there's our snowflake.
Yep.
Here's this one.
Yeah, in your kit, you'll have graphite paper, white and black. So
White and black, correct.
But the white is if you want to, if you have a really dark background and you want to do what Allison's doing right now, you can use the white graphite paper and it comes out beautiful.
Absolutely. And sometimes you just leave it alone.
I was gonna say, you've done that before and it looks really
Yeah.
good. You did constellations.
Yeah, and we'll do another one like that where we just enjoy the transfer and not really worry about it.
And the graphite transfer paper is graphite because you can erase it just like your pencil.
For example, here, I'll just show a little of the corner coming off. Just like that. Here, we'll, for demonstration's sake, took some of that material off. Put it back in. And then I want to do just a little bit of texture. And so I'm gonna get out some blue, get out some red. And I think I'm gonna do the red first. And because I want this to dry just for demonstration purposes, I'm not going to use a lot at all. And I'm just going to kind of, but I've got this kind of tidal wave.
And what's that there that you're doing?
This is with some red. I'm just putting some texture like I had in my sort of free association painting page that we did on our first live stream. I did some of this stuff, just getting started. And then I wanted to keep it in the painting I did of this. So this comes up kind of like that.
You're using the medium-sized brush.
I'm using the medium-sized brush.
You get a large, a medium, and a teeny little guy.
Exactly. And then I'm gonna do a little bit of blue. And I just did some, what I'm calling snow, which is just some very light dots that are coming through here. I've got one that I kind of started and I took around this way. And I've got some that came around here. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint my snowflakes. And this is that technique I talk about every week. Always better to pull a line than push a line. And you can't get enough practice doing this, and then it becomes very satisfying. And very,
it really is those very fine lines that you feel like you just, wow, I just painted a straight line.
and no two snowflakes are the same, and they always get wrecked, at least before I get a picture of them. So I love to like catch a snowflake if you actually get to see one. Hirsch, have you seen a snowflake? You've only lived in beautiful, warm.
I as much as I love the California sun, I have ventured into the snow a couple times. And I've seen a snowflake, and you know what? I've seen enough of them to know that I've seen enough of them.
I've seen enough of them, and I still live here. So that's what I have to say about that. The first snow is the pretty snow. And then you've got to wait another year.
It was, I think 80 degrees here in Tucson today.
Not
Yeah.
here.
I hear people complain that it doesn't feel like Christmas yet. And
Big deal.
They've got a skewed idea of what Christmas should feel like, I think.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think I could handle like 2 snows a year. Nothing that you have to shovel.
Right.
But no, we get all kinds of fun snow.
I could handle 2 snows a year at your parents' house.
Yeah, see, you can visit them. Sure. All right, so I'm gonna leave this like this because it's wet. And I've actually got to swap out.
Ooh, swap out the magic of television.
And here we go. And if you look, this looks different than this because it's not always the same. Right. And we'll work on this guy now. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get the local color for the face. And how I did that in this instance is I'm working with the complements violet and lemon yellow. And because the violet is considerably stronger than the lemon yellow, we're going to mix these and probably not use all the violet.
Oh, you're mixing them together all, okay.
This is a complement. They will gray each other and neutralize each other.
I just remembered watching the live stream from Monday where you discussed how they were complementary colors.
Yep, and so that's exactly why we're doing this. So I'm going to get this really great kind of neutral tan. Just like this. And the local color is what the color would be, definitely theoretical, if there were no light and shadow. So I'm going to paint this.
That's what local color means?
That's what local color means. So as if I'm just going to fill the whole thing in, lips included. Actually going to go over the eye too, lightly. Got a medium brush. If there were no light and shadow. So that looks kind of like that. Go ahead and go into the hair. And then I'm gonna hit some of the hair with this color too. So we talked before about text, and I went ahead and wrote in sort of the Demeter description.
What else did you learn about Demeter?
So she is also the goddess of the fertility of the earth, which I thought was very appropriate for cycles of transition, and specifically cycles of life and death.
Okay.
So if you notice, I've just kind of put this kind of translucent, it's milky because we added some white, wash over the whole thing.
Over her, yeah.
Over all of her and the wheat. And I'm going to get out my smaller brush for the stems. Same trick.
You're gonna pull instead of push.
Pull instead of push, make sure it's nice and wet.
And you want her the same color as the
wheat.
Okay.
just like that. And then while it's still wet, not that it needs to be that wet, but I'm going to go ahead. I had a little bit of the violet. Gonna add a little bit more yellow to that because it'll gray it and make it more dull. So that's this color we're working with here. And it still has a little bit of white, so it's kind of a mauvey plum or lighter eggplant.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go ahead and move this and get this back out. And we're gonna go with the darkest areas of this darker color first. So up in here.
So you're taking a little bit darker purple, right?
Yep.
And you're going over what is going to be her hair.
I'm defining all of the dark regions as shapes.
Are those, is that, so it's not just her hair, you're going to do all the shadowing right now?
Everything that's in shadow or darker, because we'll get into how shadow and halftone are a little bit different.
Yeah.
But in this instance, because this isn't a specifically realistic rendering, all of these darker regions I'm filling in with this kind of medium tone over here. So just like this, around here, certainly the brow. And I've left the wet paint because it'll kind of blend, draw in the cheekbone like this. And then just kind of work my way down from here. This dark shape here, I want to make sure I get in. The pupil. The iris I have, just like that. Lash and lid line, like that. Underneath right here. Right here. Around here. There's a very light line I've got on the nose. Same thing with the forehead, just like that. These flyaways are this color, just like this. The lips are kind of this color, certainly on the bottom, and some of the top like that. This line between the nose and mouth that has a name and I don't know what it is.
This guy here?
Yeah, what is it?
I have no idea.
It has a name.
It's
I have a
my
very
private
short one.
shadow.
Some people have a long one. I have a very short one. When you go to art school and you have to draw your face 100 times over, you figure out some of the giveaways that are specific to you.
Right.
And one is like, if you need to get there fast, you make sure you make this short. Like I know that's how that goes. Or I only have moles on half of my face.
Yep.
That makes it in there. But I learned that then. All right, some of the hair. So I'm just going to paint in some of these lines and then we'll take a look at what we have and what we'd like to change or add to.
So now, okay, so you've put in the dark where you feel like there's going to be shadow and there needs to be some definition. And next you're going to kind of line some of the hair.
Yeah, I'm putting in some of this tone in the hair. And then I have this tone in the wheat.
How much paint do you have on your brush when you start these new?
This is pretty loose. I wouldn't call it completely a wash, but
Okay.
it is pretty loose. You can see through it.
Yeah. Is that because there was a little bit of water on the brush as well? Like, does that help?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There's a lot of bit of water.
A lot of bit of water, huh? Yeah.
A lot of bit of water, but not like, so if a wash looks more like this, I'd call that a wash.
Yeah.
We have more than that.
Okay.
Wheat up in here. I'm gonna go ahead and hit at this stage because I think they will stay this color. Some of these flyaways. Same trick. Easier to pull a line than push one. All right, and so I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at this. And
How do you feel?
how do I feel? For this stage, this looks good. I want to get in this area down here is kind of this color. This area over here, kind of this color. Before we go darker.
Yeah.
Just like this. I want this to be more linear. So I like what I've got, but I want to get some kind of specific sort of hair pieces that come around this way. This way. All right. I like those. Oh, I've got this piece that overlaps. We can get that in. This is a fun piece of hair we would want to leave out. A little bit of halftone going on here. All right. We are ready to go a shade darker.
Okay.
Palette again. Drop in my violet.
And what is it we're gonna do right now? We're gonna go a shade darker where on her
The
skin
shade,
tone?
yeah. So this, we'll get to that in a minute. We have two tones that are roughly the same value. Value is the lightness or darkness of a color. So if you squint, this kind of medium plum or light eggplant, that's darker than our kind of wheat color, but not especially darker, right? It's maybe like a step darker versus here, this is considerably darker than our wheat color, right? And so we need to get this dark, and we're going to, and that's our next step. So I'm going to come in here. I've got about equal parts here of the violet and the yellow, and we know what that means. It's going to be mostly violet in this instance. And did that mess up our violet enough? Or is it still too
You said you put equal parts and it wasn't enough, huh?
well, yeah. And so it's still, I knew it would be very violet. I didn't know necessarily how violet it would be. There's a violet, you're turning violet joke in there somewhere. And so I'm going to add even a little bit more yellow.
We're definitely looking for violet, just not.
We're looking for like a kind of a dirty violet. And pretty violet, not a
acai bowl.
Yes. And I think I got there. This is exactly what I wanted.
Me too.
And I am gonna put a speck, a dab, a touch of white into that.
We got
Yeah.
Julie Prairie wrote in, and she wanted to let us know that the philtrum is the space in between your nose and your lip.
Okay, say that slowly, because we gotta get it right, because we're gonna keep saying it.
The philtrum?
Philtrum.
Philtrum. Philtrum. Philtrum.
So like a guy named Phil and Trim.
Trum.
Trum.
Yeah. Philtrum.
Philtrum.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We need that because we're going to do a lot of portraits and we're going to refer to that area. And we don't want to say, you know, that liney thing.
We'll know which of you guys were here
Yes.
on tonight's live stream if you can't name what the philtrum is.
Yeah. Ooh, you know what? We can do a giveaway.
Ooh, good idea.
What is so I'm just going to go in on top of this kind of half tone I have right here
with your tiniest brush, and you're just
my tiniest brush,
like you're outlining.
And I'm outlining, yeah. And that's in this instance, that's what I'm doing, right? In this instance, I'm kind of filling in the eyebrow. Make sure it switches direction. Just like that.
And you didn't do much for an eyelash. You just kind of just put a little.
It's more of a shape in this instance. It's the shape of the eyelash.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to come back in here. This is darker right in here. And if I go too, like in this instance, I took that too far. I got my, I smudged it with my finger.
Yeah.
I would do that over and over again, shamelessly. I'm just going to kind of reinforce. This is kind of an outline. This is a little stylized, and that's why that looks like that. Here's the philtrum.
You know, my eye, she still looks a little like she's looking at something very scary. Like, I wonder, how do I fix an eye that does that?
Okay, so when you smile, the tips of your eyes kind of curl up a little bit. So if you want to try bringing that up a little bit, maybe.
Okay,
I'd have to see it, but you can give it a try. The line in right here. I define forehead line over here, up in here. Hershey, when were you introduced to mythology?
Probably Greek literature in high school at some point. I don't even remember.
Okay.
And you know what? No, it was younger than that. It was the story of Medusa.
Oh, that's a good one.
There was one of those low budget sci-fi movies back from the 80s, or even I think maybe even the 70s, where so people would turn into stone when they saw Medusa. I don't remember who was it, but I remember thinking to myself how interesting it was, a culture where they believe in so many different deities.
So many different deities, and it's just what I love about it is it's shamelessly, like they made up deities to shamelessly explain life. And so in paying attention to the deities, there's kind of these beautiful sort of life explanations.
Yeah.
That you don't need to attribute to a deity. So I just want to talk about a little bit about what I'm doing here. So this region is kind of washed in and suggested. And so I took the darkest color that I'm working with, which is just the same one we've been using, this kind of dark plum. And I'm just kind of shading. I'm using a very watery texture. You can get a really beautiful watercolor. What's the word? Finish with acrylic paint.
You can use that water.
And what's nice about it is that it's permanent, and watercolor is never permanent. And so if we were to spill a glass of water on this, when we're done, it won't move. And a watercolor, it will never be the same again. Now you get some really, really beautiful textures and colors. And watercolor itself, the masters of that, it's a really fun thing. I don't do a lot with it, but they're really, really, really beautiful. But you can get a similar technique with acrylic paint. And there's reasons to use acrylic paint because, for one, it's permanence. Right. I'm going back in and putting some of the darks into the hair. Here. Some of the darks in the wheat, like this. So I think she's looking good, but she's looking kind of dark. So the dimension only goes kind of from the local color, which is this wheat tone. And the halftone and shadow. So halftone, very simply, is like, this isn't a shadow, it's the transition tone that goes from, I don't know, this area in the light to the shadow. And that's called halftone.
Where's the shadow and where's the halftone?
So this is a shadow. This area is underneath the cheekbone is in shadow. This is a halftone.
Okay.
This transition tone is a halftone. So I'm just going to kind of wash in some of my halftones, just like this. Right in here. That's a little much, so I picked some of it up with my finger. Now it's exactly what I want. And kind of underneath here is a little bit of halftone. And again, this is very stylized, this part of the neck. We're not going for an exact likeness. A little bit more with the hair. Gonna redefine this eyebrow a little bit.
What are some things we could be looking for? Like for mine, I realized that not all of my my hair had, I needed some more defined lines in my hair, just kind of.
Okay, so that's a good thing to add. It's a good check. I'm gonna make sure that the darkest parts of my drawing painting are as dark as they need to be in my painting. So right now I'd say this eye needs to get a little bit darker. This part of the hair I want to make a little bit more defined. The nostril needs to get a little bit darker.
Yeah.
Over here. This way. All right, that looks good. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add our highlights. But before we get there, so you get this nice green, because we've got a lot of earthy kind of gobbledygook going on here because we haven't been too worried about this leaf crown. I'm going to paint all the leaves I want to keep in white.
Okay.
And we'll go over them in green.
That's a really good idea.
So now you might ask, we don't have green. We're not working with green. We have blue, cobalt blue, lemon yellow, rose madder, and violet. How are we going to get green?
And we're going to get green out.
We're going to mix it. All right, so that is where my leaves will be. And doesn't that look like, whoa, white, like highlighter white kind of, or like liquid paper white out?
Yeah. White out.
Like, whoa. So we're gonna do some of that and highlight our face. So I've got a lot of water on my brush and some white. And I'm gonna highlight it right here. Gonna highlight kind of the brow bone right here. Gonna highlight the cheekbone. Right here.
You said lots of water on the brush?
Yes, lots of water on my brush. And then I'm gonna kind of look at it. So I've got some like really deliberate strokes and I'm gonna kind of blend them out right now. Here, over here. I'm gonna highlight here on the nose and the edge, just like that. The philtrum gets a little bit of highlight. Top lips highlight looks a little bit like this. Work back into that face. The white of the eye gets a little bit more white. The bridge of the nose gets some white. The chin gets some white. This piece of hair gets a lot of white. So we want to see it. This bit of hair right here. I'm going to put some highlight in the hair, but also in the wheat.
And you just kind of wherever it feels like, or is
wherever I think it's going to catch the light of the sun.
Okay.
And we've got the light coming in this way. That's why it's hitting the top of the cheek. So good question. Parts of the wheat.
I love the highlighting stage.
Isn't it? Doesn't it just come alive?
It really does. It really does.
All right, well, I'm gonna just kind of blend this edge right here. Where highlight needs shadow on mine.
Now you're blending and you're highlighting.
Blending in my highlighted white.
Is that just with the wet brush?
Just with the wet brush, yep. I just took a little water to it and loosened it up.
Yep.
And I kind of come back in like this. That looks good. And then, only because we're live and we don't want to be here all night, like to be, I'm going to kind of flatten out some of the globs, for lack of a better word, so I can go over this with the green. So I want this almost dry. It doesn't need to be perfectly dry. I'm going to go ahead and mix my green. So I've got some blue on my canvas panel, or on my painter's palette. That's my canvas panel. And drop in some yellow. You're going to need more yellow than blue because we know the yellow is not as strong as the blue. Go ahead and mix these guys. You get this really beautiful forest green. I'm going to add a touch of white to make it a little bit more opaque. And that lightens it and makes it a little bit milkier. Just like that. And Look for my driest leaves first. Just like this.
How would you describe that green? Like is that like a minty green?
Or a eucalyptus green. And so in our subscriptions,
Yeah.
we'll have guided with videos, 2 paintings a month. And then in the last week of the month, we'll take something like this from our sketchbook and you'll have a blank canvas panel in your subscription. And you'll take one of your drawings, or you can do mine, and you can do anything you want. Always listen to what's feeling good and what's feeling exciting. And use your sketchbook or something you've been working on in your journal. I use journal and sketchbook
Interchangeably,
synonymously, and make it into one of your paintings. And so that's what this is. I took something from my sketchbook that I worked on that resonated with the theme I was working with, and I made a painting. So I'm going to take some of this green now, and I want one that's a little bit more blue and one that's a little bit more yellow. So those are my 2. I add some yellow to this one. Some blue to this one. So mix this one up first. So that's kind of,
yeah. What are we doing now?
more of a grassy green, or I'm just making more greens to sort of hit up my
yeah.
leaf. And then here's more of a bluer green. So there's a little bit of variation in here. The other thing is,
yeah, I see it. Okay.
You use your sketchbook to kind of work out some stuff. So I'm not going to make it look exactly like this because it's my second time around at it, right?
Yeah.
So, and right now I'm just working in this blue or green into my leaves. Kind of in shadow. That's where I'm kind of hitting where that would go. And then my kind of grassy, lighter green. I'm going to actually add a little bit of white to this to just make it more opaque and milkier. Just like that. And I'm going to highlight with these. It's not really a highlight, it's just really more of a lighter area that catches some of the sun. Just like that. And then, like I did here where I worked some of this green into this side of the painting, I'm going to do the same here. So grab my big brush, and this is nice and dry, and very lightly wash in some of these greens. There's the bluer one. There's the kind of grassier one. And then also kind of fun, especially with our covering white that's really opaque and really beautiful when you kind of water it down. I'm just going to take some of this white like that and wash that in here, and you get this kind of veiled technique, or this kind of veiled image. Let me grab a little more because I like how that looks. But
That's a good white. You said that a few times.
so you use the reason you look at a big white every month is because you use the most white and you need it to be good.
Yeah.
You can't add white to something and then watch it disappear. So we looked at a lot of different whites and I'm obsessed with our covering white. I kind of want to hit a payment there. All right, so I'm going to take a look at this and see if I want to add anything else. I think I'm going to hit just a few more highlights because acrylic paint always dries both darker and sort of more translucent, streakier. And so if I want these like white out white, I'm going to take some straight up white, no water on my brush, on my baby brush, and I'm going to hit the highlight the eye. I'm going to hit the highlight on the forehead, on the nose, here on the lip, in the hair. Like that. And Hershey,
Yeah.
you certainly consider yourself to be kind of a beginner at painting
Very
in
much
general.
so. Very much.
Not necessarily at art making. You've done all kinds of exciting things in the arts, but how was it painting a face maybe for one of the first times?
You know, I'll show you here in a minute. I'm not as impressed with mine as I am with yours. Let me just show you what I got. And that.
All right, let's see.
So here we go. Do you see that?
Hershey, I love it. It looks fantastic.
You think so?
Yes. So lyrical, so beautiful.
Yeah, I was really hoping to follow instructions well enough to like recreate what you have there. I don't know if I did it.
Well, if you're interested, so this will be
yes.
Live, or this will be saved on our page, on our Facebook page. You've gone through it once. If you're interested, you can pause it in the second time around.
Yes.
You've done it once through. It's one of the reasons why we're including videos in our kits to the two paintings that we have samples to and videos and everything else is so that we have really, really clear instructions because it's very difficult to follow along and paint at the same time as everybody else. So right. I definitely applaud you for doing it this time. But if you want another pass at it,
I really like the idea of the wording that
I got that.
Yeah, I love that idea. Making a painting that kind of serves more than one function. I've never done anything like that. I've seen it done, obviously, but I've never even occurred to me that I could do something like that. So I'm excited.
I've got a great kind of hack for that. All right. So I'm pretty pleased with this. Now it's very, very wet, and it's very wet in all of the areas I've considered putting my wording. So I've kind of left some regions for some text. And I'm going to add a little bit more because I want a little bit more contrasting white. And then I'll come back. We'll put it on the page when this is dry. I'll go ahead and add text to this, but I've got to swap for the text to show you how the text works. So I'm going to leave this alone for the moment. I like the way it looks. This is on our Canvas panel. I'm going to take you through it a little bit. So here is, I'm not going to sign it. I'm not done with it because I'm going to go ahead and add text to this later. But we have our goddess that we drew. We didn't transfer it. We drew in the wheat. We prepared our canvas with the white and the rose madder. We did some kind of abstract textures that imply wind, imply snow. We transferred our snowflakes. I'd taken this from my journal entry that has some text that went ahead and labeled it. And then I took something out of here, like this says Demeter or Demeter. We looked that up. In the Midwest, they teach you Demeter. It's wrong. Demeter is the goddess of the harvest and agriculture, presiding over the grains and the fertility of the earth. Though Demeter is often described simply as the goddess of the harvest, she presided also over the sacred law and the cycle of life and death. And so I'm going to let this dry, but there's room for text. And nice swap. So this is my swap. I didn't take it quite as far as I took our live one, but it'll work for our demonstration.
Mm-hmm.
And I went ahead and printed out Goddess of the Harvest.
And you printed that out on
I
the
printed
vellum?
that out. I printed it on vellum for the demonstration, so you could see through it. And if you want to print on vellum, you certainly can. But in this instance, you can print on paper, you can print on anything. But the trick here is I chose a very simple font, and I can find out what this font was. I'm going to position it right here. And I actually, if you have a program where you can manipulate the text, you can certainly in Photoshop, you can, I bet you can in Word if you really know what you're doing. But it's called kerning, and that's a typography term. And it's the space between the letters, okay? So I made the space between the letters a lot wider, so I have room to work on the letters. And I'm gonna go ahead and transfer this like we transfer our transfers that come in our kits. So I'm gonna do it the way we always do it. I've got my tape. You can use the labels we provide. You can use anything you want, but I'm gonna use tape. And the reason we provide labels is because we can't send you a roll of tape every time in our kits. And if you don't have tape available, they certainly work just as well. But if you've got like good quality masking tape, which is what this is, it's a good choice. But tuck our darker transfer paper underneath this. Goddess of the Harvest. I'm going to go ahead and transfer these.
And you cut, so you're like kind of coloring in because they're thicker letters, yeah?
Yeah, that's, and you know, we don't have all the time in the world. We do, but we like to keep it moving here. Time for art. And it can obviously be anything. Any text. I would suggest something probably this big, but if you get really good at your lines with your line brush. And then we're going to see how this looks. And there we are. Goddess of the Harvest. Looks like I can't really see the second S here. So I'm going to go back in and really hit that. I'm going to get it with the full strength here. I really want to see my second S. Now I can. Look at that. All right. So that says Goddess of the Harvest. I'll hold this up just so everybody can see it. And then I'm going to paint. And don't hold your breath when you do this.
I was going to
Get
say,
better and better at it.
trick to this, because are you just going to take the finest point of the smallest brush and just
Yep.
do the best?
Yep. And I'm just going to, it doesn't have to look like font is the thing. Okay. It just helps us.
Yeah.
So that's a G. It doesn't look like font. It looks like I painted it. And there's 100 ways and decals and everything else to apply perfect font if that's what you want. And I suggest doing that if that's what you want. But I want mine to look painted. So I'm just going to paint.
I'm just gonna paint.
And I've done this a few times.
Have you held your breath before?
I will catch myself doing it. And I'm like, that's not helping anybody. Breathing is good.
That's funny.
Or like gritting my teeth. I'll be like,
Yeah.
I'll catch myself doing that. And it's like, you're going to need your teeth at the end of this.
Let's say you do mess up. Like what? Like, I mean, do you
No.
beat yourself up over it? How do you handle that? What do you
Let's
do?
mess up. There we go.
Okay. All right. I like it.
Okay. If I had a napkin here, that would be, but because we have acrylic paint and because we've built up a lot of this, and acrylic paint is that, it's just that, it's acrylic. The base is plastic. You can wipe it off. Oh, look. And it looks like I kind of did some of that here. Look, all gone. No harm, no foul.
No harm, no foul. I like that.
You can always touch it up later.
Right. It dries fast.
It dries fast. Go back in. And part of this also is if you paint like once a year and you make it really high stakes, then it's really upsetting if you mess up. But if you're painting every day, like I do, or a few times a week, or you get a time for art subscription and you're painting all month long, different times when it's special to you, when you get a little me time. If you wreck one of your paintings or it's not quite what you want it to be, you can get another one.
Amen.
So I will do this for my other painting that I took further, but I like a lot more than this one actually. This one I just wanted to get us so far to try this out. So I've drawn this face now 4 times from scratch. I could have transferred it, but can't get enough practice with portraiture. So it's like, nope, you know how to draw. Like,
It's true.
all right. And so there's my font. Text, not font, because I painted over it. And it doesn't look like font.
Looks awesome.
So I'm looking at this, and this is why we practice and why we do all the things I just said and then some, is what I could have done was sort of done a whitewash, like a veil behind where my text was going to be so it doesn't interfere. And I might do that for this one. I might make sure that I've sort of made it lower contrast to paint on top of. So this is the one we just painted.
Yeah.
And this is the one I added text to, that was nice and dry. And I think what we learned from here is it's helpful to space the letters out, which I did. But I'm going to go ahead and make sure I have a lower contrast background to do my text. So there we are.
And so for the whitewashing, does that have to be done beforehand, or can you do that over that goddess that you already done?
So let's go ahead and try that. So it's not necessarily dry yet. I'm going to use my techniques to get us there. Blotting up All right, if this smears, it's because we did this too soon. But so we look at this, not quite what we wanted. Not bad, but not great, right? Got some white.
You mean it doesn't pop?
Yeah, it's just it's a little busy. It's a little confusing. So, oh look. I want to make this whiter. And lower contrast. So I can go back in on top of it.
This is like mistake-free painting.
Always. Always, always, always. We don't worry too much here. All right, so I can definitely still see my letters. Lower contrast. And then let's hit that T. Oh yeah, look at that.
Yep.
So that's one way to do it. This O. And where it was a little bit busy, let's try this S right here. Just picking out different letters. Yeah.
Yep.
Give that a try, but look at how much stronger that is than what we had.
Yeah.
So yeah,
pops.
probably want to let that dry. We didn't because we didn't. And here we are. So.
Great work, great work.
Painting Wednesday. I had a good time. I always have a good time painting. Hershey,
the best time.
We're gonna post mine and Hershey's. He might work on his a little more. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely.
I don't know. You don't have to. It looks fantastic. I will go in after this and share it. Next Monday, we are going to be working in our journals again. And
so next month, so real quick, I just want to go over today what we learned. We learned about drawing faces. We did hair, we did highlights, type font on canvas, which was something that I thought, you just couldn't do at home with a paintbrush. So great job. And then like you were saying, going to Monday, back to our sketchbooks, back to our art journals.
We like to journal and we paint in our journals. So it's still painting, but, and we don't always have to, but in this instance, we're going to do our microcosm hourglass. So I have it right here. So this is, I have an hourglass and this template is available in your books. We'll be working with that and it's empty. And I have this one too, if you want to do this one, but this is my sun and moon. Yeah. And I made the moon kind of feminine and the sun kind of masculine. And I have the sun and moon as equal contributors to this beautiful relationship, but they feed each other. And so that's where I went with this. We'll do some different things. You can do a lot of things in kind of the hourglass microcosm. Yeah. And this is what we're going to work on next week. So
keeping that right there where we can see it. Today we learned how to use the white and a lighter color to create highlights. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see how you use the darker colors there to create shadow.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And this is kind of low contrast modeling.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of light and shadow in the structure of the hourglass, but not too overwhelming. And we'll try some different things. So excited to see you then. And yeah, post, share, talk about all the fun things that you're working on right now. And we look forward to seeing you then.
If anybody has a tree from Monday that they'd like to post, we'd love to see it on our Facebook, Time for Art Subscriptions on Facebook. And then anybody who's got anything from tonight they'd like to share, please drop it on our Facebook.
Very good.
Allison.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye.